Hello and welcome to Moving Beyond Stigma. I am your host, Michelle Crossman. Every episode, we are here to talk about all things mental health, and today we have a very important topic. We're going to be speaking about homelessness and the housing crisis and programs that are available in the GTA. Today, we have two guests who work within the Canadian Mental Health Association who help combat these significant challenges. Welcoming Mark Dwyer, who is the clinical lead for the Housing First program, and Melissa Banton, who is a housing outreach worker with the housing program. Welcome, Mark and Melissa.
Hello.
Hi.
Mark, I would love to hear a little bit about what you do and what has brought you into this work.
The work that we do, I think it only is important once you get everyone involved to kind of help out with it, as you know, with the housing crisis and everything. So every person within it is important, right from the person who's experiencing homelessness to right up to our CEO of CMHA. So we all kind of have to contribute. But what brought me, I guess, I come from a family where my mom was a psychiatric nurse. I have family members that are in healthcare. I have family members that have experienced some major mental health. So I think I just kind of fell into it in terms of, this is kind of what I have an interest in, and I've been doing it for 20 plus years now. So, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. That's definitely a long-term commitment for you, and that's really, really incredible that you've been able to step into that.
Yeah, I don't know if I stepped into it. Maybe I was dragged into it, but
That's totally fair.
but I'm glad that I did. Like I feel like it is a service that greatly needs more press, more people involved, and understanding to kind of help people out. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, definitely. And Melissa, how about you? How did you get started and brought yourself into this?
This is gonna sound really weird, but when that movie Hannibal Lecter came out, I was so fascinated by the psychiatrist and what questions they were asking to dig deeper into his mindset.
Yeah.
So I was like, I want to do that. I want to ask questions. Everyone's got a story, a backstory, and how they make decisions, when they make decisions, and why they make decisions. So I was always interested in people's stories and why they feel the way they feel, and you know and just because the cover looks like that doesn't mean the story's like that. So
Yes.
I was one of those kids in high school that were friends with everybody, and I listened to everybody, and everyone's like, yeah, just go talk to Melissa. Just, yeah, she's good. She'll help you. But when I think about it, my mom was like that as well. Like everyone knew my mom. Everyone came over to my mom's house for dinner or just to talk or just to get a hug. So now that I think about it, like that's genetic, right? It's a, it's a family trait of hearing and feeling people's stories and knowing people truly, for everything. So
Yeah, I love that. That's a great story, actually. Definitely wasn't expecting the movie part into it, but that's honestly like so fascinating, and I can actually totally relate to that as well. Just with I've always been fascinated by how people's brains work and what like motivates them and what challenges them, and just we're all so unique, and really digging into that can be so fascinating. And everyone has their own story and their own motivation and their own things that get them to the places they are. And I guess, yeah, that's really cool. I've definitely been that person who will like sit and watch either like a TV series or a movie, and get so fascinated by like the psychiatry behind it all and
Yeah.
things that are being asked of them or their explanations. Yeah, that's really, really great. All right. I would love to hear a little bit more, and I guess either one of you can answer this question. Just a little bit more about the actual specifics in the programs that are out there and that are available.
So the Housing First program and strengthening communities in Scarborough. So that
Mm-hmm.
I'm involved with both of those. I'll start with, I guess, the Housing First program. So really, it's something that obviously stemmed out of the fact that you know we need to do something different, and I guess they were doing things different in other countries. Uh, you know, uh, Over in the Scandinavian countries, and even down in New York, there was a lot of okay, how do we reach people that are experiencing homelessness, and make them feel like they are empowered, or trying to build their spirit through a home. And so it's not it's a simplistic name. Housing first, do that first, get the foundation, get people feeling like they actually have something of their own,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other things will come later. So the philosophy would be, no judgment, no waiting for people to be ready to actually get housing. It's no, if they're experiencing major mental health, if they're experiencing addictions, if they have involvement with the justice system, and that all of that stuff, you can't really work on that until you actually feel safe and stable in your
Yeah.
own place and have that stability. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell for the housing first piece, and then strengthening communities in Scarborough. So let's talk about an underserved community. Scarborough
Mm.
is definitely an area of the GTA that has been left without a lot of support.
Yeah.
And I guess in our own part, we came up with a way to kind of extend ourselves into Scarborough through Toronto Community Housing. There's a couple buildings that we're affiliated with right now. One we've been affiliated with for close to 9 years. Another has been about three-ish. I don't want to say it's a pilot project because I think we're beyond that point now, but really, going into these hard to reach, high needs buildings where a lot of people are, uh, sad to say it, it's almost like a warehousing of
Mm.
people that have been released from incarceration, or coming from some pretty difficult scenarios, and then having access to housing, which Toronto Community Housing is doing, which is great. And obviously, you do what you can within the means of what you got. However, the infrastructure and the buildings, they need a lot of work,
Yeah.
and the staff need a lot of support. When I look at some of the staff that are at Toronto Community Housing, they are worked to the bone. They have to be, you know, counselors, police, security, cook, clean. Like they're doing everything, and I think it's not worked. I think they have gotten to that point where they need that extra support, and I think that's where CMHA was asked to come in and kind of help with that. Um, Once they did that, at one particular building, uh, the first one that we've been there for about 9 years, they did see some indicators of change that were important and easy to, I guess, easy to look at, like in terms of stats or whatever. Once we were in that building, EMS calls started to went down, fire,
Mm.
emergencies went down, police interventions went down, um, feeling more safe. Through needs assessments, clients would be telling us that, having our presence there actually helped help with the home that they were trying to have within Toronto Community Housing. So, it's we just seem to be fitting in as a piece to kind of make some change, help things to get better.
Yeah.
Um, so it's complex, it's complicated. You can't really blame anyone. You can't really do you can't go into that so much. We really just have to reflect on, like, okay, we're there. Hopefully we can make some change and make things a little better for people. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I can only imagine how difficult that must be for the people who do work there and how draining that must have been on them for such a long time, being so many different roles all at once and not having that well-rounded support, right? So that's really, really incredible that they've been able to step in and start making those changes and provide that support so that things are slowly but surely getting like a little bit more, well-rounded, so people are feeling safer and feeling that change. And Melissa, how about you?
So our program, well, my program is the Housing Initiative Program. So basically, we have clients that live in our housing long term or for as long as they want, right? And we have scattered units throughout private buildings. We have buildings that we have mostly our tenants in. And we have partnerships with several different types of agencies in the GTA. We do have a partnership with TCHC, and where we support the client, just like with everyday things, with everyday housing things. um, with our housing, there's a partnership. So it's a partnership between case management and housing. So you can't get our housing unless you agree to having a case manager. And that's basically the deal that we made with the property managers that, they want to rent out their units to CMHA. Great. But they also want to make sure that our clients are properly supported with case management, which it's an excellent deal for to be honest with you, because
Yeah.
Housing workers only do so much in regards to the housing realm, and case management is there for mental health, just everyday like resources, anything really. Like they are the Renaissance workers. So basically, our clients will get referred from TAP, and then we do an assessment. The housing worker as well as the case manager does an assessment, and we figure out if they are eligible and if the housing that we have planned for them is an actual fit for them. And then we, do a quick recap to our team, and we figure out, is this good? Is this a good fit? And if they are, then we tell them, and the client basically says, okay, when can I see the unit? So they see the unit. If they like it, they accept it, and the whole leasing thing happens. And the best part of that whole scenario, though, is when they come to the office to get their key for the first time,
Oh my
and
gosh.
the smiles, the gratefulness, the gratitude is
Yeah.
unbelievable. So I think that's my favorite part of like the whole thing.
Yeah.
um,
Wow. That just gave me
yeah,
like goosebumps a little bit, just imagining
yeah,
that and
it's pretty
imagining how,
amazing.
yeah, those feelings
Yeah,
that just must be
yeah.
such a big thing for people to just
Because once
take
you
in.
have housing, literally, like Mark said, your
Yeah.
life can start. You can, find a job. You can apply for IDs. You can, invite people over. You can get that reconnection with your family again, saying, I
Yeah.
actually have somewhere to invite you to You know, you can
Yeah,
come over for dinner. You can sit on my couch. Like there's, feeling like a person again, right?
definitely. Yeah, and I think that's definitely where a lot of, I guess, the stigma comes in as well, right? Of like having from, I guess, outside perspectives or
Hmm.
whatever, um, having a home or having somewhere to just call home and actually feel safe, like that is so incredibly important. And when you don't have that, how do you get anything else? Like it's impossible, really. Like you can't do the steps that people will say, oh, just do that. Oh, just get a job. Oh, just,
Yeah.
and like it doesn't work that way at all. So having
Exactly.
these incredible programs that actually truly support people is such a big deal. And having that space for them to just start to get their feet back on the ground again, probably just feel like you said, feel like a human again, feel like themselves. And from there, they can start doing all these other steps to, make that progress and start thriving again.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, no, I absolutely love that. And I cannot get the picture of someone grabbing their keys for the first time out of my
They do
head.
their happy dance, honestly.
Yeah.
People are doing happy dances.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can imagine. I
Yeah.
really, really can. And like the I guess I can only imagine, and you can again correct me if I'm wrong, but how much this has probably the need for these programs have probably grown exponentially over the last few years with you know the housing crisis that's we're literally in right now and the absolutely horrid pricings of rent and the constant increasing and how like scary that is to see.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'll just to quickly give kind of a context to that.
Yeah.
So we provide rent subsidies, like mobile
Hmm.
rent subsidies, which means for the housing first portion of our program, which means the actual subsidy is attached to the person, not to the place.
Mm.
But if, those subsidies come from obviously outside sources coming in to whether it's government or private or whatever. But the last couple of years we haven't gotten any new subsidies,
Wow.
um, and the subsidies that we do have, uh, they just to give you a ballpark of it, they top out at around 1,200. We can actually give a rent subsidy of $1,200 to someone on ODSP, for instance. An ODSP rent shelter is around a little 500, 522, I think. So you combine 1,200 and 522, you're tapped out at a little over 1,700. Average cost of rent in Toronto right now is $3,000. If you want to get a bachelor unit, like in Scarborough, uh, off of like not on a transit line, not near a lot of amenities, like in a food desert and like nowhere near anything, um, you're looking at for bachelor units around 1,600 to 1,800 bucks.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's really tough. It's tough for people to get in there if they don't have the means to kind of pay for that. Um, I know that with and Melissa, you can speak to this. Like with our housing, right, with rent subsidy built in terms of like the how much the rent is for clients to come to us in our house within CMHA. It's tough, right? Like it's not
It,
easy.
yeah, it's tough because you're speaking about the new funding. So the
Yes.
old funding is only about $500 that we can top up to the subsidy, the rent
Yeah.
subsidy that they would leave. So they get $500 from ODSP for rent, the shelter portion,
Yeah.
and then we're giving them $500. That's $1,000. That's no way going to cover anything. Not even
And,
the first room, not even like a mud room in in
yeah.
any place, right? Like
Yeah.
literally.
And actually, they were going to give us like the 500s. They were going to give us like here's like 2500s, like 20 rent subsidies at 500. We basically said, why don't we take 10 at 1,000, because
Right.
we're not going to house anyone.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so that's the difficulty of it all right now. Like
And
the subs are
really
there.
hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard because even when our clients are in our housing and they, let's say that they want to move, right? But they don't necessarily want to be in CMH housing. They want to go for like a mobile subsidy so they can find their own home because they've, they're more mentally stable and they don't necessarily need a case manager at this time.
Right.
They can't afford anything.
No.
So even if they're ready mentally to step a little bit away from CMHA, we can't provide that for them because the housing market is not giving them their independence. So we're in a system that makes people stuck and has no other options other than to, and I'm not saying CMHA is a great place to be with, right? But if someone's ready to move on, it's very hard for them to do that with the subsidy and the money and the rent and the rent crisis that we have right now. It's impossible.
Yeah, which is so disheartening because like that's literally what you're there for, right? Like to help them. You're not supposed to be, ideally, not the long-term place, right? Like you want to help them move forward so they can get to these places on their own. Like that's what you're there for. And then because of everything that's happening, it's cut off. Like there's no way, which, yeah. And then people have nowhere to turn at all. They can't continue that journey forward.
It's a lot of crying. It's a lot of, frustration at the system,
Yep.
At us because we can't, and I get every single emotion that comes at us. I get it because I'm there right with them.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's it's scary. Even as someone, like, I'm an artist working in the city, and like the rental prices of everything, like I am constantly just trying to figure out if I can pay rent this month. And like just that's terrifying. Just and I have a job and I have a wonderful boss. I have these things. I'm very privileged in a lot of ways, but even still you don't feel solid.
And I think that this is where it's going to get people's attention, because it's hitting now people that have work, that are working full time, working 2 jobs, working 3 jobs, whatever. Like they're going to experience it. Like to give you an example, I know a person, the people in my life that they're getting older. They have to plan for retirement. They have to figure those things out. And they have solid work, and then all of a sudden the landlord says, "I'm going to do some renovations, so I need you to move out. I need you to move out." And then all of a sudden, they're saying like, we can't have you in there while we're doing the renovation. So here's some money, so you can go find another place. People don't know their rights, and I am only starting to learn this and that. You have to really go and look at the landlord tenant. You have to kind of go there and see that landlords on their side of things, like it's a business and they have to kind of take care of their business, so they need the money. But then the tenants that are in there, they're also experiencing making sure that they have to pay their rent. The problem is, everyone's trying to make sure that they take care of themselves, paying the rent, landlords making sure that all of their things get dealt with and paid for. Um, but sometimes with vulnerable people that don't know their rights, they might take that money and say, "Oh, thanks for taking that money. I'll go find another place." You're not going to find another place.
Yeah.
No.
And if you agree to that, it might be difficult to fight that later in court or whatever. Say, I got reno evicted, so like looking at your rights and figuring that out, uh, having having things in place for yourself is more and more important. Not only for people who are vulnerable because of homelessness, but also now the working person. And I think that
Yeah.
people are gonna understand this more. So,
And I think
yeah.
that's what happened with like the pandemic and now with the housing crisis.
Yeah.
People, the government, they saw mental health as a thing that affected a certain demographic.
Yes. Yes.
But then when the pandemic came, everyone was getting depressed. Everyone was isolation. Everyone was experiencing some type of mental health. So now with the homeless crisis and the renting crisis, everyone is experiencing it. And now it's something to talk about,
Right.
which is good and bad
Yes.
because the problems always existed,
Exactly.
right? But hopefully, we will be talking about more solutions than problems in the near future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That definitely comes with a very mixed emotional, state, because it's really infuriating that that's what it takes for people to actually want to start having the conversations, and opening up that dialogue more. Like it shouldn't take that long. It shouldn't have to get that far before, bigger steps are made, so those who have been doing the hard work all along and experiencing these things all along, it's frustrating, but also like finally, it can also like finally people are hearing us, finally people are seeing us, and yeah, so it's a very like just a weird kind of state to be in, mentally and emotionally. I'm sure it's good, it's very good, because we need to have these conversations, but yeah, it's also a little bit like, okay. But what about the people who've been here this whole time?
Yeah.
With CMHA, we're there to kind of make sure that something can happen that's respectful for the tenant, but also respectful for the building managers that have decided to allow CMHA to be tenants as well in that building. So
Definitely.
I don't like. I know, Melissa, you could speak to this better than me, but like it's a tightrope that you're walking on. And then we also have a little bit of a conflict of interest within our own agency, that we are constantly trying to figure out how to work with that, because as Melissa kind of noted before, like we have housing workers and we have case managers. Case managers are purely there for the clients and for clients that are tenants, and housing workers, they also have, like, they're there to maintain that relationship with that building, and we all have to kind of come together to go, okay, how do we make sure that the housing that's the goal, is to keep the housing. However, there are scenarios where if a person is not doing well, if they are going through some pretty major mental health and addictions types of concerns, how do we ensure their safety, and how do we ensure the safety of the people that are around them? Again, in a respectful and in a confidential and in a way to make sure that privacy and everything is upheld as best that we can. So it's a delicate dance. Speaking of dancing, right? Like what you do. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think with housing workers and case managers, we do have two very different roles, but
Yeah.
they are intertwined. So the housing workers, yes, we're responsible for, unit inspections and maintaining a relationship with the property manager and making sure that repairs are done. And as well as, getting, having a relationship with our clients, right? So
Yes.
we know that if we go into a unit and the baseline is usually clean, but like the bedroom's a mess, they're fine.
Yeah.
But if we go in and everything's a mess and the bedroom's clean, we're gonna have some questions, right? Like what's happening, right? We don't have as much wiggle room as case management to be as lenient because we do have
Right.
the LTB. We do have responsibilities to the property manager and owner. And we do have our lease with the property managers. So we have to be more strict and organized in regards to like what we can let go. But we also know, and property owners also know, that we are dealing with clientele that is going to need more help.
Yes.
So, in regards to that, we are in constant communication with the case managers. We when things happen over the weekend, we're the first ones to know about it because property managers be like, "Hey," and then we're like, "Let's do a joint visit, case managers. Let's go now!" Right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I get case managers are there for the clients. We are there for the clients as well. It's just in a different way. So we just got to work together in regards to how to make that play out best for the client.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
Yeah.
and we both come from, we're at CMHA, so our philosophy, our vision, everything, we kind of fall into supporting the person. But the other aspects that are like the landlord, like say the super of the building, or police officers or security guards, they're they don't follow the same kind of
Yeah.
philosophy, same type of so we're also educating those guys. We're also trying to say, hey, like you can't speak to people like that, or we can't get into that. You can't say things like that about a person and say, you know, um, they know that they're working with our service. So all of a sudden, these words come out that you're kind of like, no, you can't. We're not talking like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works. I'd say more often now, like it's getting better, where you're getting people going, okay, and they realize they've just been challenged around like their thoughts and like having a
Yeah.
stigma against someone who works with CMHA or is experiencing some sort of trauma that may have led them to using substances and things like that. But
Exactly.
then, there are some landlords and police officers and stuff like that that they're just like, I'm here to do this and I'm going to do this, and you're kind of like, okay, how do we do it safely though? How do
Right.
we how do we support this person? How do
Mhm.
we not turn this into a situation where someone ends up in an ambulance or in the back of a police cruiser? Um, so yeah, I would like, housing workers, case managers, other tenants, other people in the building that know that person to come in and kind of go, wait, let's just treat each other like people here and try to
Yeah.
figure out how to do this. So it's again, the metaphor of dancing. It's if your partner is a terrible dancer, you got to take it on a bit more and help them along,
Yeah.
or get them in there and get them to kind of learn the steps with you, because
Exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, you need
I think
that
with
full support all the way
yeah.
around.
yeah,
Yeah, I think with that, with the full support, it's also, our clients like to talk about their rights, but we have to, remind them they also have responsibilities, right?
Yes.
So it goes hand in hand, and sometimes it's hard for them to um, acknowledge that, but then at the same time, it's like, okay, well, let's go over your lease. Let's go over if you were a neighbor and you were hearing all these things, how would you feel, right? Like it's a lot of,
Yeah.
reminding them this is not normal. This may be normal to you, but if everyone else is saying, oh my God, that's a problem, um, we got to be mindful of, other people's feelings as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like it has to be like a full team effort to kind of keep that community feeling,
Yeah.
so that, they can still receive that support even if they have done something maybe they shouldn't have, or, caused a problem, and trying to turn that into, I guess, like a learning
Yeah.
curve for them, instead of
Yeah.
oh nope, now you got to start from scratch, like take that
Mhm.
moment, have
Yeah.
those conversations, try to keep everything as respectful as possible, so that they can learn from it and ideally grow from it as well, instead of just being thrown 10 steps backwards after doing all this work.
Yeah, and I think this goes back again to the um, hasn't hit me, it'll never hit me. I'm not susceptible to
Mm-hmm.
that. It got this. We have if you're in a stable job, stable relationship, consistently just kind of moving on in life with working, school, and all of that. We have lots of people that have used our service over the. I mean, I've been working in this long enough that I can kind of go back and say, I've worked with a doctor, I've worked with a lawyer, I've worked with some pretty prominent people, um, but they're lost. In terms of like no one remember. You know what I mean? It's kind of like I'm. They're not someone that is reflected back on. They kind of fell to the wayside, carried on with
Mm-hmm.
their life, but all of their colleagues and coworkers and that maybe it didn't work out very well, for various reasons, probably don't give that person a second thought. They don't know that, so they don't. So right off the bat, they kind of go, I'm just carrying on with my life. It'll never happen to me. But meanwhile,
Yeah.
it doesn't take much for things to fall apart, and then it could be you. You could be
Mm-hmm.
experiencing that. So
It's literally in the back of my mind all the time, like I'm two paychecks away from being, one of my clients basically, like,
Yeah.
or I'm one situation away from, getting depressed. So, you only can do what you can do, but at the same time, like, we're living, in a world that we're not in control of, right?
Exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I think that's where a lot of my personal frustration, I think, comes in, with, especially with like the stigma that surrounds homelessness and all of that, is like how quickly it can happen to literally anybody. And just because you are in that scenario right now does not say you deserve it, or you are a bad person, or whatever, that you're violent, that you deserve this. Like, absolutely not. And so many people just kind of jump to these negative conclusions about someone who is struggling. And, again, it can happen to literally anybody. And the fact that a lot of people just kind of, it just goes over their head, or they're just totally oblivious to that. Like, it kind of takes the humanity out of it, and
Yeah.
then they're just kind of looking at them as like a statistic instead of an actual human being. And like, we are all here on this planet that is constantly,
Mm-hmm.
you know, going through a lot. And like, all of us are struggling throughout various levels of different things. And we're all human. We all deserve to have a safe space to just like live and heal and, work to get better when you are struggling through something, whether it be a mental illness or an addiction or anything. Like, we need the space to,
Literally when
yeah.
um one client that I have that I work with at a shelter, whenever he hears the phrase "the pandemic is over,"
Mm,
he gets really triggered because this is a guy that had a business, had a home.
yep.
The pandemic literally wiped everything out for him.
Yeah.
He's first time at 63 in shelters. He has no more money, no savings, and he's entering this whole sector first time in his life. And he realizes, like, he's like, people don't even look at me. I'm invisible,
Yeah.
because of where he lays his head at night.
Yep.
So imagine this is just him coming in at this time, and basically everyone who's been in the system forever, they feel probably, more than invisible. I don't even know if there's a term, but like just more
Yeah.
than invisible,
Yeah.
to people that, have, preconceived notions about them, and really hurtful thoughts.
Yeah.
The just again, it really comes back to like trauma. But in various forms, like it could happen years and years ago, or it could happen. That guy experienced trauma, obviously, right? Like, I mean, it's a traumatic event that he went through. Everything's just gone. He's 60, 62. Like, um, it, you know, we've got people that are coming to us voluntarily, like CMHA. For the most part, our programs are voluntary. We try to, like, for our like the Housing First and the Strengthening Communities in Scarborough. Our Housing First comes through. People get referred through the Access Point, which is like this big umbrella kind of service, through the Scarborough Strengthening Communities in Scarborough. It's low barrier. It's just, they literally just have to call me. My card is kind of out there, and then we do an intake, and it doesn't matter, if they have any diagnosis or involvement with addictions or mental health. We don't care. Like, if they want to use our service. And I guess to kind of go to the point, what I was trying to get to is, if someone is experiencing homelessness and experiencing kind of like being invisible, like Melissa, says, it's almost as though they've been dehumanized also by themselves.
Yeah.
They don't deserve anything. I'm not worth it. And and I think that also kind of plays a part even in trying to house someone. That that, yeah, the happiest day is to get the keys in their hand. Sometimes they can't even get there. They don't show up. They don't show up. Something happens. They start using, or some other kind of coping strategy to go, I can't handle this, because
Yeah.
nobody's ever given me anything. No one's ever cared about what I wanted. And all of a sudden now you got someone doing that. It's like this visceral reaction to it. It's kind of like, I can't. And then all of a sudden you've lost that person. And it just really comes back to kind of stigma that's out there in society, and then the self stigma that kind of comes with it.
Yeah.
And it's horrifying, like it's terrible. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Or the clients that don't, that take the keys and then they don't end up staying in the unit.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they're so used to being on the street, and they're comfortable in this little area that they have called home. And then when they get to the apartment that we just gave them, they're like, this doesn't feel like home to me. I know it's mine, but I'm not comfortable here yet. And it takes a while for them to actually, self-soothe and have some positive self-talk about, where I was. This doesn't necessarily mean that I have to be there all the time.
Exactly.
There is transition, there is growth.
Yep. Yeah. And being okay with, saying that you deserve that, you saying, I deserve this space, and that's so, it's so hard to just like feel that for yourself and not be constantly expecting the worst because of what has happened over time, what has happened in your life history so far. And then there's the automatic trauma responses as well. Like, here's something good. I had something good before and it got destroyed. That's probably going to happen again. So why even let it start? Like, why let myself get happy if I'm just going to lose it all again anyways, and just that spiraling thought process. It can be, I imagine, incredibly difficult to just actually, even just say yes to the help that is there for them and feel that they deserve it. And, you know,
It's hard for me to say yes to a lot of things, right? It's hard for
same.
me to
Yeah.
take compliments, right? So, I
Yeah.
mean,
It's
can you
such a
imagine
human
someone that
experience, you know, to be like,
exactly.
"Oh no, I don't deserve that." Or, you know, like so oh yeah, it's such a thing that we do all the time, and then when you take it to those extreme levels, you know, it's heartbreaking and it's really difficult to come out of that space, you know. Are there any last final, I guess, just like notes or things that either one of you would like to share?
In regards to like stigma, I remember I can tell you the
Mm.
story about my dad. When I first graduated from school, and I got um, a job in the hospital, and he was like calling me every day because people's imaginations go wild because I worked in the psych unit.
Mhm.
So he thought that I was very unsafe, and anything could happen. And I asked him after month 4, when is this going to stop? you know? And he goes, he goes, I just don't, I can't, I don't know. I don't understand. Like, you're working with people that are unpredictable. And I said, Dad, I don't see it like that. I said, I see the people that I work with are the bravest humans in this world. They actually are literally telling people out loud they have a problem, they want help, they're going somewhere for help.
Yeah.
And if I can, be part of that world, and I said it's a privilege when people tell you anything about their life,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
for them to tell you about the most um, private, part of their life, it's
Yeah.
a privilege. And then from that point on, my dad did not call me every day. I mean, he called me once a week to say, hey, everything good? But
Yeah.
I think when you educate people that have such strong visions of what you are walking into, and you
Yeah.
give them a different viewpoint of things, it helped my dad. It helped my dad. So I think it helps people if they realize that, we're not dealing with weak people by any means. We're not dealing with, people that just don't got it together. We're dealing with
Yeah.
some of the bravest people ever in this
Mm.
world. So I think
Yeah,
we have to.
I'm always. It's such a privilege, right? When you do an intake, and the person just, you know, and I'm going, whoa, you don't have to tell me anything. You don't, and I think like that. There's also that obligation or whatever. Sometimes people who have been through the mental health system, it could go either way. It could go many ways, but it could be like, I've already told my story. I'm done. I'm not going there. I'm not going to put
Mm.
myself through that again. I don't want to do it. And then
Yeah.
there's some people that just, they want to give you it all. And you're like, and, and I think like now in my, like where I am, I'm based out of Scarborough with Housing for Scarborough and strengthening communities in Scarborough, and having people in Toronto Community Housing who uh, they just met me, and all of a sudden they're welling up. They're like, you're like, I just need someone to talk to. Like that's it.
Mm.
Like who cares about diagnosis? Who cares about uh, any of this stuff that obviously when it comes to treatment and it comes to kind of getting, we'll get there if you want it. But it really just comes down to one person interacting with another person and feeling safe. Bar
Yeah.
none, that is like the key to it all. Feeling safe, um, having a home, feeling safe, being able to have an interaction with someone and feeling safe. And there's too many people that come to us that they don't have that at all. Like they're completely cut off, isolated, not able to. And I think, if anything, what Melissa does, what I do, and everyone else at CMHA, really it just comes down to, we just want to hear what people have to say, and hopefully we can be some sort of a support at the end of the day. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you both for sharing that. hearing you both say that it's a privilege is so special, honestly. Because I know a lot of people don't have that mindset, and it is a beautiful privilege to have, to be able to be there for people and support them and offer them as much as you are able to. And, just, yeah, providing that safe space for them to open up and feel heard and feel seen and just, yeah, feel that support that you're able to give them. So thank you both for what you do and the work that you've put in. I am extremely grateful to CMHA and all that they do. So, yes, I really, really appreciate both of you and the programs that are out there. And I'm really grateful to have had this conversation and learned more myself about what is actually experienced and what is out there and provided for people. So, thank you. This has been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much, Mark and Melissa, for joining us today. And until next time, this is Moving Beyond Stigma.